Hey there, food lovers! Welcome to my little corner of the internet where we're about to embark on a culinary adventure. Get ready to feast your eyes on this spread. We've got it all, from the fresh and healthy to the oh so deliciously processed. But wait, there's a twist. Today's episode is all about uncovering the hidden secrets lurking in our everyday meals. We're going on a quest to answer one simple question. Did you accidentally munch on some plastic today? Don't worry, we've all been there. Before you click away in horror, remember, we're keeping things light and fun here. We'll be diving deep into the wacky world of food additives, those mysterious ingredients with tongue-twisting names. So grab your forks and get ready to laugh and maybe cringe a little as we explore the truth behind what's really on our plates. Trust me, after this, you'll never look at a bag of chips the same way again. Let's kick things off with a classic breakfast staple, good old orange juice. It's refreshing, it's packed with vitamins, and it's practically synonymous with a healthy start to the day. But hold on a second, did you know that your daily dose of vitamin C might be sharing space with some unwelcome guests? We're talking about microplastics, those tiny particles of plastic that are practically everywhere these days. Now, before you swear off orange juice forever, let's remember that these microplastics are invisible to the naked eye. So the next time you're reaching for that carton of OJ, take a moment to ponder the unseen world of microplastics. All right, let's move on to another staple bread, the foundation of countless sandwiches and toast-based delights. It seems simple enough, right? Flour, water, yeast, basic baking ingredients. But wait, what are those mysterious E-numbers doing on the ingredient list? Suddenly, our humble loaf of bread is starting to look like a science experiment gone wrong. E-numbers are codes for food additives, those substances that manufacturers add to our food for a variety of reasons. We'll separate the harmless from the potentially harmful. And by the end of this journey, you'll be a pro at spotting those plastic-related culprits lurking in your pantry. Okay, let's talk chips. Those crispy, salty, utterly addictive snacks that we all know and love. What's not to love, right? Well, apart from the potential for getting crumbs all over your shirt, there's a whole other layer of complexity lurking beneath the surface of that seemingly innocent chip. Think about it. How do they make those potato chips so perfectly uniform, so incredibly shelf-stable? It's not magic, folks. It's science. And more specifically, it's the magic of food additives. Flavor enhancers, preservatives, artificial colors, they all play a role in creating the modern-day potato chip. So the next time you're reaching for that bag of chips, take a closer look at the ingredient list and ask yourself, what am I really putting into my body? Let's zoom out for a moment and take a broader look at our food system. It's a complex web that stretches from the farm to our forks, with multiple points along the way where plastic can sneak into the mix. Think about it. Our food is grown with the help of plastic mulch and irrigation systems. It's packaged in plastic containers and wrapped in plastic film. By understanding the journey our food takes, we can start to make more informed choices about what we buy and how we consume it. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the microscopic elephant in our food. We've mentioned microplastics a few times now, but let's really break down what they are and why they're causing such a stir in the scientific community. Microplastics, as their name suggests, are tiny particles of plastic, typically less than 5 millimeters in size. They come from a variety of sources: the breakdown of larger plastic items, the shedding of synthetic fibers from clothing, and even those microbeads found in some personal care products. These tiny particles are practically everywhere, in our oceans, our soil, and yes, even our food. They've been found in everything from seafood to bottled water to table salt. And while the long-term health effects of ingesting microplastics are still being studied, the early findings are concerning, to say the least. So, while we might not be able to see them with the naked eye, microplastics are a very real threat to our health and the health of our planet. Let's get specific, folks. We've established that microplastics are everywhere, but where exactly are they showing up in our food supply? Well, buckle up because the list is longer than you might think. Seafood lovers, you might want to take a deep breath. Microplastics have infiltrated our oceans, and as a result, they're ending up in the stomachs of fish and shellfish. And guess what? When we consume those creatures, we're essentially inheriting their plastic burden. But it's not just seafood that's affected. Researchers have found these tiny particles in sea salt, rock salt, and even lake salt. Now, for the million-dollar question, what do all these microplastics mean for our health? The truth is, scientists are still trying to unravel the full extent of the risks, but the early findings are far from reassuring. Think of it this way: we're essentially conducting a giant, uncontrolled experiment on ourselves by consuming microplastics on a daily basis. One major concern is the potential for microplastics to accumulate in our bodies over time. Unlike many substances we consume, plastic doesn't break down easily in the environment or in our digestive systems. The bottom line? We're still in the early stages of understanding the full impact of microplastics on human health. But the evidence so far is enough to warrant serious concern and a call for further research. If you thought microplastics were confined to our food and water, think again. These tiny troublemakers have gone airborne, infiltrating the very air we breathe. Think about it. Every time a plastic item breaks down in the environment, tiny particles can be swept up into the atmosphere, carried by wind currents to even the most remote corners of the globe. And once those microplastics are airborne, they can easily end up in our lungs with every breath we take. While our bodies have mechanisms for expelling some foreign particles, there's concern that microplastics might be small enough to bypass these defenses, potentially causing respiratory problems and other health issues. The message is clear. We've reached a point where plastic pollution has permeated every aspect of our lives, from the food we eat to the air we breathe. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the microplastic problem. But don't despair. There are steps we can take as individuals to reduce our exposure and protect our health. First and foremost, let's talk about reducing our reliance on single-use plastics. Those plastic bags, bottles, and packaging might seem convenient, but they're a major source of microplastic pollution. So let's ditch the disposables and embrace reusable alternatives whenever possible. Choosing fresh, unpackaged produce over processed, packaged foods is a great way to reduce our microplastic intake. Filtering our water is another smart move. And finally, let's spread the word. The more people who are aware of the microplastic problem, the more likely we are to see meaningful change. All right, let's dive deeper into the seafood situation, shall we? It's no secret that our oceans are facing a plastic pollution crisis, but the extent to which microplastics have infiltrated marine ecosystems is truly alarming. Think about it. Fish are ingesting these tiny plastic particles, mistaking them for food. And those fish are then consumed by larger fish, creating a domino effect that ripples through the food web. Scientists have found microplastics in the guts of a wide range of marine species, from tiny plankton to massive whales. But ultimately, the best way to protect our oceans and ourselves is to reduce plastic pollution at its source. Hold on to your hats, folks, because the microplastic rabbit hole goes deeper than you might think. While we often associate these tiny particles with our oceans, they've infiltrated practically every corner of our planet. Take honey, for example. That sweet golden nectar produced by bees from the pollen of flowers might seem like the epitome of purity. But guess what? Researchers have found microplastics in honey samples from around the world. Let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer scale of the plastic pollution problem, shall we? We often hear about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a swirling vortex of plastic debris twice the size of Texas, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed by images of turtles tangled in fishing nets and seabirds with stomachs full of plastic. But what we don't always see are the microplastics, those tiny fragments that are often invisible to the naked eye. And here's the thing. Microplastics aren't just a separate problem, they're a consequence of the larger plastic pollution crisis. Think of it this way. Every plastic item that ends up in the environment, whether it's a plastic bottle, a plastic bag, or even a tiny plastic microbead from a facial scrub, has the potential to break down into smaller and smaller pieces, eventually becoming microplastics. So while we might not be able to scoop up every single microplastic from the ocean, we can certainly make a difference by reducing our reliance on single-use plastics and supporting efforts to clean up existing plastic waste. Let's take a trip around the world, shall we? And no, this isn't your typical culinary tour. This is a glimpse into the global reach of microplastic pollution and how it's showing up in food and beverages across the globe. In Europe, researchers have found microplastics in mussels, a popular seafood delicacy. In Asia, they've been detected in sea salt, a staple ingredient in countless dishes. And in North America, they've been found in beer, a beloved beverage enjoyed by millions. The point is, microplastics aren't confined to any one region or culture. They're a global problem affecting food systems and ecosystems worldwide. And while the levels of microplastics in food vary depending on location and dietary habits, it's clear that this is an issue that transcends borders. So whether you're enjoying a plate of pasta in Italy or a bowl of rice in Japan, there's a chance that microplastics might be an uninvited guest at your table. It's a sobering thought that highlights the interconnectedness of our world and the urgent need for collective action to address this growing crisis. Okay, enough with the doom and gloom. We've covered the problem. Now let's talk solutions. We're not powerless in the face of microplastic pollution. There are practical steps we can take to reduce our exposure. First, let's clean up our diets. Microplastics accumulate in larger fish. Choose smaller fish like sardines or herring. Shifting to a plant-based diet is a win-win. Fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains are nutrient-packed. They're also naturally microplastic-free. Let's talk about processed foods. Ready-to-eat meals and snacks are often loaded with microplastics. Opt for home-cooked meals whenever possible. Taking control of our diets reduces microplastic intake. Make conscious choices for our health and the planet. All right, let's talk grocery shopping, shall we? Navigating the aisles can feel like a minefield when you're trying to avoid microplastics. But fear not, we've got tips to help you shop smart and eat clean. First up, let's talk about packaging. Plastic packaging is a major source of microplastic pollution. Opt for products in glass jars, metal cans, or cardboard boxes whenever possible. Next, let's head over to the produce section. Fruits and vegetables are naturally microplastic-free. So let's load up our carts with those vibrant gifts from nature. And don't forget reusable bags. Bringing our own bags reduces plastic waste. Every choice we make at the grocery store matters. By being mindful of our packaging choices and embracing reusable alternatives, we can make a real difference. Okay, we've tackled our diets and our grocery shopping habits. First and foremost, let's ditch those single-use plastics. We're talking plastic water bottles, straws, cutlery, and those pesky plastic bags. Let's invest in reusable alternatives. Next up, our clothes. Synthetic fabrics like polyester, nylon, and acrylic are made from plastic. Washing them sheds microfibers into waterways. Choose natural fibers like cotton, wool, or linen. Reducing our plastic footprint is an ongoing journey. So, there you have it, folks. We've journeyed into the microscopic world of microplastics, explored their insidious presence in our food and water, and uncovered the potential risks they pose to our health. It's a lot to digest, literally and figuratively. But before you resign yourself to a life of paranoia, constantly scrutinizing every bite and sip, remember this: knowledge is power. By understanding the issue of microplastic pollution, we're empowered to make more informed choices that protect our health and the health of our planet. The truth is, we've reached a crossroads. We can continue down the path of convenience, consuming a diet of packaged, processed foods, and contributing to the ever-growing mountain of plastic waste. Or we can choose a different path, one that prioritizes sustainability, mindful consumption, and a deeper connection to the food we eat. The choice is ours, and it starts with small, everyday actions. It's about ditching those single-use plastics, embracing reusable alternatives, and supporting companies that are committed to sustainable practices. It's about becoming conscious consumers, reading labels, asking questions, and voting with our wallets for a cleaner, healthier future. Let's face it, we've become a society obsessed with convenience. We want our food fast, cheap, and readily available without much thought to the consequences. But this pursuit of convenience has come at a cost. The good news is there's a growing movement of people choosing a different path. They're embracing a more mindful approach to consumption. It's about making small, sustainable changes to our everyday habits, rediscovering the joy of cooking meals from scratch and sharing them with loved ones, supporting sustainable businesses and reducing our reliance on single-use plastics. We're citizens of this planet, and we have a responsibility to protect it. Let's embrace a more mindful, sustainable future.